He could sit up here.
That was very good, Julie. And have breakfast, so thank you.
Yeah, help yourself.
At least this year we can go to the service downstairs without it raining. Last
Maybe.
year it rained, we had to move it inside in the
The
atrium
one
down
day it
here, didn't we?
rained last year was during that.
We had the one day.
Day.
That's right.
Beth, we're ready whenever you are.
Supposed to rain. I gotta swallow this banana bread.
There you go.
Okay, we're gonna call the meeting to order with the pledge, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now we have public comment period. Anybody like to comment? Councilman Carlson maybe has.
No?
Here to learn.
Okay.
Okay.
So, need a motion to pass the agenda?
I'll make that motion if there's no amendments that,
We had,
or additions or corrections to it.
What was, the one addition we had is already on the,
Okay. Madam Chair, move to approve the agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Johnson. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Bredesen. Any discussion, additions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we're gonna look for a motion, on the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I'll move the consent agenda.
Commissioner Schmidt moves the, consent agenda. Do I hear a second?
second?
Commissioner
I-
Schiefelbein? Questions?
Yes, now can we discuss a
Now is the
couple of
time.
things?
Yep.
Yeah.
Before we go and have specific, would you like me to run through what the different items
Do you want
are?
me to do that first?
Okay.
So
Go
we
ahead.
have approval of the May 3rd board meeting minutes, approval of the social services, county and hospital accounts payable, appointments to the Meeker County Park Board, approval of a revised joint powers agreement for counties providing technology, and approval of the hire of a full-time seasonal highway aide, Matt Sogi, at level A11, step 1, $15.84 an hour, starting on May 23rd. That concludes the consent agenda.
Okay, questions, Julie?
Okay, I had pulled out, there is a request to appoint 3 EDA board members and 4 individuals had applied. Who makes the recommendation as to the 3 that were recommended to us?
I was gonna talk on that.
Okay,
The EDA board looks at the candidates and tries to fill them, I guess, best, like the one, or we had 2 candidates for Litchfield. The one is already very involved, very involved, very active, and very eager to work with EDA.
sure.
And the other one is probably in a better, the one that we chose, we felt fit the criteria a little better of with real estate and different things that she's involved in, Kim. And then Darlene is also very active and very involved, so we thought they'll interact very well together. So that's how we thought the one had fit the criteria a little more than the other, so it's
Looks like you got a nice mix.
yeah,
folks on
yeah,
that
and that's
board.
kind of what we try and keep it
Yeah.
balanced, if you will.
Darlene is in my district. I think she wanted to see some more, communication between city council and EDA. And I think when I first came on this board 10 years or more ago, whatever it was now, we had the mayor, someone who would serve. I don't know if he was a voting member or he or she, but I feel like somebody from the city would be on there as advisor, communication. You might wanna check on that. I'm not sure voting, but I think it was important to have, because Litchfield being the county seat. And I think that's her interest solely, is, she's just interested in housing and, yeah. And I like Kim too, I mean.
Yeah, and
Obviously,
we
she
just felt it
serves.
was a good mix. I mean, Darlene will be involved, she'll ask questions, she's not afraid to find us and talk to us about stuff, and so we thought she'd work good with Kim, you know, I mean, as a,
You might wanna
From
think
the
about
city.
having somebody from the city council.
Cause I thought about that, it might be nice to have had that representation, kinda getting, you know.
I'm wondering
birds
if,
with
I'm
one
wondering
stone
if you
kind
can
of a
still
thing.
get it without
I'll have to, we can
something to
ask,
think about and maybe
Who are
check
the-
some
ask
history on
Chris
it.
on the
Yep.
bylaws, and so I don't know.
Who are the two commissioners? You're obviously one,
Yeah.
and you two guys are on this, yeah, okay.
Yep.
Because that was my other, who are the two CC representatives? Do they ever, you know, think about conflict of interest being on committees? When you accept, applications from folks? I was just curious
I'm not,
that.
Are you thinking that the
With
real
the
estate?
real estate interest and serving on a committee like that, would there be any,
I don't
Push
think
back
any,
with
any
conflict of
more than being
interest.
the mayor or being a council member
So,
or, you know, I mean, it's,
Yeah, Commissioner Bredesen, when we've had specific issues come before the EDA, as we do with the county board here, where someone is personally involved with it, that individual is not participating in those discussions.
all right.
I think I've been involved in maybe twice in reviewing conflict of interest matters and have given a recommendation, so they do make sure those are shared and discussed.
You know, and one clear example of that was the business grants. The state had given the county business grant money, and then the EDA reviewed those applications, and I know some of the members who participated in that didn't participate in some of that discussion because they or a family member had an interest in some of those businesses. So,
and Kim being involved in real estate has I mean, that's a lot of what EDA does too, a lot of different real estate things. So we just, her criteria, I guess, fit a little better, and knowing Darlene, I know she's not afraid to reach out and be involved as a council member too, and ask, you know, to use Kim as her, so we just felt it was a good blend.
Okay, is there any other questions on the consent agenda?
I just had one on, Paul, what's the, anything on that CPT?
Yeah, that's just a change in the agreement, and I believe Brandy looked it over also, didn't you? Yeah.
That's correct.
We added Pope County. They became a voting member they paid $170,000 to join. They've been using the services there all along, but they were not members because when it was originally set up, they didn't have the spare change to at that time. So now they do. They wish to become, and the Joint Powers Board voted in favor of allowing them to buy into CPT. So we had to add that. We finally, actually, I think the change is, we listed every county.
Yep.
That is a part of the joint powers. So we had to have a new agreement that did that, so.
Any other questions?
With the Parks Board, we're nominating two individuals. Were there only two that applied for those positions? Do we know?
yes,
Just two.
I think every one of the, when we get an application, Corey sends them out to everyone. So if two is all you had, that's all
They should
we
automatically
receive.
go to you when they
They
submit
come
the
to us.
application.
Oh, do they come automatic? You don't send them, they just come?
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions? If not, we'll vote on the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We didn't need a resolution on any of these, correct, Andrew?
correct. Yeah, there was no resolution.
Wald Billick, you've got 15 minutes or else you're, and then you can go to the memorial with us. Yeah.
Not your number.
I should have been a little.
Hospital's getting rough, huh? Is that threatening?
You heard it.
The chair board?
The board chair.
The board chair threatens, boy, this is getting interesting.
Good morning, we'll go over the financials and then.
We started off the first quarter really strong. The end of 2021, we saw that our inpatient levels were higher than we had budgeted, and those were still high in January and into February. We're really starting to see that drop down now. So what our average inpatient census, it's been somewhere between 7 and 10 for the first quarter. We're now sitting at closer to 4 for April. So we started off the year really strong. We were seeing a net income for the first quarter of 2 million, well past what we had budgeted. We had a very low, not a strong first quarter of last year due to COVID, and then now as we're moving into April, we're starting to see our first monthly operating loss of the year. So it's kind of trying to ebb and flow as the inpatient levels change.
That's something that we're seeing statewide and nationally, that the inpatients are dropping down. And you compound that with your increase in cost of labor and your inflation, and it can go in reverse pretty quick. So,
And also, I'm guessing this, heading into summer isn't, people are done with.
yeah, summer is not, it's always this time of year when you kind of see the drop off, the decline, so.
Right.
And like you said, that's in every hospital
Yeah,
across the state and
Yeah, we
probably
sit
across the
on-
nation, huh?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we sit on a lot of different committees, and we're seeing it across, systems and across the state. You know, so.
It is interesting, and maybe you're gonna point it out, how well the clinics did for us though during the downtime.
Yes, actually, the clinics, we've seen the clinic revenue increase faster than we had anticipated, and especially all of our outpatient services are really what carry us through the time, and when we see those lower inpatient revenues. So although our inpatient levels have started to really drop down, our outpatient levels are still continuing to carry us from a gross revenue standpoint. We've seen that the clinic has picked up and our urgent care is starting to pick up as well. So those have been positive pieces within a month that we've seen a lot of, lot less activity.
Getting to recruiting, we have an APP, that has started with us, but hasn't started seeing patients. They gotta work through all the systems, through getting your DA license, credential, MPI, everything through the federal government. So once we get them fully credentialed with our insurance payers, then he'll be able to start seeing, patients. We did secure, contract with another, MD, Dr. Bikert. She'll be joining us, September. She's a family practice, will be in C-section certified, that will be starting in September, so. We're still looking for 2 more, doctors. So we're still trying to recruit, and that's becoming a struggle also. But we're fortunate to have the 2 that are starting it.
Kurt, what's it take, what's the length of time on the credentialing? Cause I know when Beth and I go to Prime West, once a month, we're approving a credentialing list.
Credentialing can take anywhere between 30 to 90 days, 120 days, depending on the payers. Blue Cross Blue Shield tends to be your longest. So, but then you need to have everything in place in order for them to be credentialed, so it depends on how fast the federal government takes to get MPI, DEA license, all that.
I know we talk at Woodland too, everybody's on the same staffing issues, so they're trying to get people licensed or credentialed in Minnesota, and I know their association is trying to make some changes through the government that they don't have to jump through every, like we get travelers, so do they have to be licensed in every state? And then if they're not, right, then how long does it take when you're in really need? So some of this seems like it's burdensome, from what I've heard.
Yeah, we actually had our own employee who was a nurse practitioner, or who was a nurse, became a nurse practitioner for wound care. And it actually took almost 90 days just to get her transcript from her college.
Yeah.
In order to send to she passed the boards, in order to send to the Board of Nursing to get, it was.
So you're in a staffing crisis, and again, the government is doing all they can to help you. Just saying.
Other thing that comes up is April, end of April, beginning of May is when we get our Minnesota hospital survey for labor. So we have received that, we'll be dumping that into our wage scales and figuring out what the impact it will have in terms of staffing. We made a significant investment in our employees last year, and we're anticipating that we're gonna have to do that again to stay within market, so.
Anything else?
I had a question. I was looking over the minutes of the board for the hospital. And there was this considering donation of land behind the Longfellow project. And then it was actually a motion. And it was then donated. I would like that explained. How did that come about? Can the
like me
hospital
to?
just do
Paul,
that?
Paul,
You know,
Paul,
how-
Paul.
how-
Go, look right
Yeah.
to your right.
Huh? Explain that to me.
Well, finding out that we own so much property around the hospital, and that's just a small portion of what we own. We maintain it, we do everything. UCAP would like to build some housing here, and they had a funding shortage. In all likelihood, that land is never gonna be used by the hospital. It is a little bit longer than a half block, so potentially there could be 5 homes built there. UCAP would build 3 this year, and then 2 after those were sold in upcoming years. So we would add 5 more housing units to our county, our city, and which would turn that property into tax revenue for the county, city and county. Part of that was contingent on the city being willing to do the water hookup. So they had to have some skin in the game also. So we approached the city about them joining with this to do it. And they were willing to do that. Now, it hasn't exactly gone smoothly because we're still working through some bumps. Seems to be under statute that you cannot donate land to certain organizations or certain types of organizations. And UCAP is one of those organizations. So we gotta go back to the drawing board a little bit and see if we can figure out something there.
Because the first thing that went through my mind was, if the county owns the property, why would we give it away? If I was paying taxes as a taxpayer, and then the hospital has this property, and then the hospital board makes a determination, I'm just gonna give 5 lots
It's one lot. It has to be split down into 5.
into 5 individual residence homes.
Yes, that's what it will turn into, yes.
But how can they do that? How can one entity give away public property?
Well, that's what we found out, that you can't exactly do that, can we, Nicole? So,
I think it was purchased with hospital funding
Yep.
and shows on the hospital
Full assets.
balance sheet. So, but
And we also.
that doesn't mean it wouldn't have to come before that board, but I thought it was a wonderful idea to try to get some housing. That lot has been standing there empty for a long time.
It's just west of the Longfellow
Right.
Apartments, that on the same
Right.
block.
Yeah.
Right.
And our thought is with the housing crisis that we run into, we can't necessarily get staff. We've had staff that accept the positions and can't find housing. And they then don't come. So our thought was, if this is a way that we can help with the housing crisis that we have here, we believe it was the right thing to do for our community, so.
And then you're gonna get it on a tax roll with some, I think, UCAP's homes are gonna be valued at what, 130 or
no, those are 200 and,
250, see, I'm way off on that.
yeah.
200, whatever.
200 and some
So
thousand.
then you're getting property tax out of it.
Yep.
As
That's
it is
another,
now.
and that housing crisis, that's another reason Kim Dolan came on to EDA too, cause being a realtor in real estate, she has a day-to-day pulse on what's happening in housing, so that was an asset.
And Dean, and Representative Erdahl worked very hard for us too, to get us additional funding so we can move these homes forward. There's gonna be 2 built in Eden Valley this year. We were hoping to get the three jumped ahead of the Eden Valley ones because there was three homes here and we had the lots, but, cause I don't think they purchased lots up there in Eden.
And the UCAP homes, that's where they had a cap on how much income, that's where I got the 130 or whatever, that would qualify, so that you get some middle income people into homeownership who can work here and shop here and have a home here.
And the following theory is, okay, we move these folks out of the lower cost homes into these. We now provide some homes at a lower cost that lower income people can then move into. So it kind of had a trickle down effect.
We've also had a lot of, Kurt and I and even that board have had discussions about transitional housing. So if we could get some of the elderly people to sell their beautiful homes that they're living in and get families into them, you know, and move into a patio home or something, we'd be freeing up some space, but somebody has to build something because we're just plain short. So,
But we won't be in the building program as the hospital just
no.
donated.
No, yeah,
Yep.
just
Yes.
UCAP needs the property.
Yeah, we don't wanna be in the housing business.
No,
Had enough
It
trouble.
looks like you're vacating two of them as you speak though, right?
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, we, all of our-
What's behind that anyway, in terms of how did that came about and why are they vacated if you just said, you know, housing's a problem? What happens to those spaces anyway?
So those spaces are currently EDA managed, and what we have to do is if we have a change within that lease, we have to give a 6-month notice. So right now with the building project, what we've been doing is
What,
evaluating all
that
the.
was my second question. What's the building project selling the CEO report?
Building project, we got our initial numbers back from the GOF and our architects. We had a presentation with the executive board, and now we're gonna try to figure out how we can lower the price, because where the prices are at, so.
Hey, you guys can come talk to us too, cause I hear
Lowering the
the
prices,
architects are
Kate.
giving us some prices too that
So,
are higher than
It's,
that.
it's high.
It's challenging.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
could we continue this discussion? We should be on time for the,
I'm sorry, yes, now you do
Memorial.
get to come to the memorial service.
I'm sorry to make you wait, but I do
So
think
we're
we
gonna
should be on
recess the
time.
county board, and I'll go to the peace officer memorial service.
You wanted to say?
One question too long for you two, darn it.
You started.
I know that.
Will you lock this door?
we don't need any
I don't think-
papers or anything.
Call the police officer.
Okay.
This is the time, Beth, this is the time. Everyone takes an opportunity.
Go see if I can. Where we go?
Police officers are having a memorial service and they do that once a year. You may. Okay. Hi, Tim.
Good, yourself?
Good. You good for Tuesday then?
Yeah.
Awesome.
At your place?
Would that work for you?
Yeah. You making lunch then, or you?
I'm gonna have Peter make lunch. How's that sound?
Peter, huh?
My wife has a meeting, with, the LAMP board, one of her volunteer organizations at noon, so I thought for sure it'd be perfect to have her there to do stuff, but, that's not the case, so. It'll be good. You guys you still have to stick around, you have more to,
I guess so. We don't get,
how long does this take, do you know?
I have no
I
clue.
don't know, I'm not sure.
Trying to recruit people to play against my tennis team Friday morning, old people. Either of you play tennis?
I have in the past.
I have in the past, but not very
It's
good.
been a while. Where do you play at?
At the high school courts. I got seven people so far. Some of them are really good. Do you know who Avery Stillwell is?
I don't know.
She plays at Mankato State,
Oh,
and
so is this a pretty competitive group?
yeah, my son Alex, he's 40 now, but he won the state in 2000, and his doubles partner is Chris Batten, and they're both going to play. And Vern Larson, he's an older gentleman, but he's a good player.
Yeah.
Josh Prawl played singles for me a couple years ago, so I think they'll humble our players a little bit. That's okay.
Not always a bad thing.
You guys present every month to
Usually every other month.
Every other month.
these guys have a lot more fun at their meetings than the city council does. Plus they dress better too. I gotta start wearing a suit coat.
They usually, Steve's usually in a suit coat, Danny, Paul usually isn't,
Isn't he?
but I'm sure it's because of the memorial service.
Oh, sure. I think we're supposed to get some rain here in a little while, aren't we?
Think so. I was to go home and mow tonight, but we'll see.
Wasn't it about like
It's coming up. Not as high as other lakes though.
Minabelle, isn't it?
It's not where, when we moved in 4 years ago, it's still probably 6 inches below that.
How far did it get down last fall?
Oh, I bet there was 4
Feet?
feet of shoreline.
How much?
4 feet of shoreline that used to be covered up around my place.
So that is quite a bit though. I mean, we've gotten a lot of moisture.
Yeah, I drove around Ripley last night on the way home, in that outlet that's by that park,
It's flowing.
that was flowing pretty good.
Yeah, and last year it was dried up.
Yeah.
Golf course is the same way. There were some of the sloughs that were almost dried up. And they're full, so
So the geese will be back.
they're there. There aren't as many as there normally are, and maybe they got the bird flu.
They weren't wearing their mask.
They got a mask up.
Yeah. My wife sent out a snap right at the beginning. We had a backyard full of birds and blackbirds and everything like that, and you can hear in the background. I've been telling them they gotta stay, 6 feet apart and wear damn mask, birds, Wear a mask.
What are these things hanging from the ceiling? Do you guys know?
I think they're speakers.
I think they're
Speakers?
speakers, yeah.
That's interesting. I've been in gyms for about 40 years of my life, and you can never, sound systems in most gyms are just terrible.
Oh, yeah.
But the ones I see that are the best are the ones that have the speakers, like 20 of them, that just come down to their area. But if you try and blare it out to, you know, one speaker to one side, it just doesn't work. Maybe that'd be nice. Those get hit by a ball, though, they'd probably get abused.
Not gonna last very long.
So the land, they can't donate that land.
Don't know.
They haven't figured it out quite yet, just because of the tax exempt statuses and some of the, Minnesota Attorney General rules for bidding and things like that, so. See where
But
they
they're
go
working
with
on
it. Yeah, yep, they were still working on,
Well, we thought it was a nonprofit organization. which
UCAP.
UCAP is, that another nonprofit organization could,
Help out.
yeah. But, you know, rules and regulations always,
That's
Make it worse.
that's what you were talking about as far as hiring people too, right?
Yeah.
I've got a great person you could go and recruit.
oh, yeah?
Her name was Karen Rambo. They're from Litchfield, and she's an MD. She likes delivering babies, and her husband's an emergency room. He's not quite a doctor, but he's a
Or APP, PA, yeah.
practitioner, yeah.
he's a PA or
Where are they at now?
they're like in Bird Island.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Where's she work for?
Do they have a clinic right in Bird Island?
Might be.
I think they do. But I think you could recruit her.
Yeah.
Her parents still live in town here. And you'd get 2 for 1.
Yeah?
That would be a nice deal, yeah.
Hey.
They're taking a quick recess.
I'll find the info on her.
We'll make decisions for you if you need.
Sure,
Yeah, not a problem.
not a problem.
Yeah.
I forgot her maiden name, so Name's Karen Martinson. I don't know, Olivia is where she works.
Okay.
Oh, sure.
Great young lady. She's affiliated with the Olivia Hospital Clinic and St. Cloud Veterans Affairs Healthcare System. Anybody over there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's a PA. I don't know if you guys recruit like that or not. They're really good people. They have 3 kids. Outdoorsmen. They like to hunt and fish.
Cool. Yeah.
Karen's brother is a dentist in Annandale. Both him and his wife are dentists.
Okay.
And he also owns, him and his wife own a dental practice in Morris. And he actually drives from Annandale every, I believe, Monday and Friday to Morris.
Really?
And he works those 2 days in Morris. So they're really hard workers.
Shoot him, I'm sure you can find an email on him. We can use another ER provider.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where do you get them from right now?
We hire, we had all of ours, when I got there, they were locums. All of them ran as a locum. So then we hired our own. So we got 4 APPs, MPs, PAs, and then 1 MD. So,
And they're the emergency room, they staff it
yep, 24 hours a day,
7 days a week?
7 days a week.
Oh.
Yep. Yep, they're on.
Where do they all live? They,
I have, one is over by Copier. I got one over by New London, one is in Hutch. The MD is over by, between Dassel and Copier on the farm. And then I got another APP from Glencoe.
what, 4 of them covering 24/7, how do they do that? They're working hard then.
Yep. So we still got a couple that, that we use, a couple locums, but for the most part, they try to handle it all. So, some will do the full 24-hour shifts, so we get sleep rooms there and stuff, so.
And you have a guy that comes from Sioux Falls to do the,
CRNA, yeah. He's been coming for 15 years.
isn't that great? And then week on, week off?
Yep.
And he works with,
Thad and
Julie's
Yep.
daughter-in-law?
Tara, yeah.
And that's his business, right?
That's his business.
He employs them?
Yep.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and it's worked out for us, so,
Yeah, it's worked really well.
I mean,
It's good for Thad and for Tara, and
Thad,
is it just
Tara.
those 3?
yep. So they cover 24/7, 365.
It's a good group.
Yeah.
You know Thad's wife then, Melinda? You know
Already met
now?
her, yeah, but haven't seen her a lot.
She's about 6'2".
Oh, yeah?
She's working in the school system. She was a heck of a basketball player. She's a Division I
Thad's
basketball
tall also.
player. Huh?
Thad is tall also.
He better be, because
Yeah.
she's really tall.
Yeah.
You're tall.
Yeah,
Are you
I was
6'10"?
5'10",
5'10"?
yeah. Not good at basketball though.
Did you play tennis?
I did,
In high school?
we didn't have like a great program in our high school, so it was more of a rec league.
Where were you at?
I was actually in Iowa, so Carroll, Iowa.
Okay. Melinda was, Thad's wife was a really good basketball player. And Tara, she's a heck of a runner. And her husband was a heck of a track man.
Yeah.
Mike, he played basketball for me. He was a good athlete. I'm not sure what he does.
He's kind of a biology type.
Ecologist or
Ecologist.
something
kind of
along.
saving the world, isn't he? Kind of making sure you're planting the right stuff.
Yeah.
And
I think he's got a doctorate.
he does.
Yeah, I think was it 2 years ago, he did his thesis. He sat for his doctorate, so,
He's really sharp.
yeah. She's bright too, and great individual, she just. Yeah, very, very nice. And I mean, she loves the outdoors too. She's out there on Mini Bell with him in the kayaks and canoes, fishing and hunting and.
They run their back roads out in the far country.
Yeah.
All the time. They don't have any kids, do they?
Nope.
That'll change that a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
But Cassie has 2 kids.
2, I think.
Bless you.
Well, you can just wipe the pollen away when you go outside. Gotta go over, pick up my meat today, Carlson's meat.
That where you get yours? You get somebody you buy it from somebody, or you just get it from Carlson?
I get it from Carlson, they'll call me up. the fall one, I'd go with Dick, Pink. He knows a guy that, has it and we ended up getting a quarter last year. It was one of some of the best beef I ever tasted.
Yeah.
So we'll go again. His will be done in the fall. We'll go with half of one in the fall. I got quarter of one to get us there and then a half of hog and a lot cheaper than running to the store.
We do that too, and the guy that does the hogs, he said he's not doing it this summer. He says it's just too expensive. It's not worth it.
Really?
Yeah.
They went up, I think the beef went up 10 cents and hog went up 25 cents. So, but still cheaper than picking it up in the grocery store.
Have you heard the last name Halterstrom? Judy Halterstrom's with
Yeah.
the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
Her husband and her brother,
Yeah.
they farm. We buy a quarter from them.
Oh, yeah?
We do that once a year. We don't do we hardly do any steaks or anything in the winter time. I hate to broil them. To me, that makes no sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll throw a couple on depending on how warm winter is. I'll throw them on the smoker or something and,
I would do that.
yeah.
Well, they cut you guys off. That's not fair, huh?
They're the boss.
What else do you guys, what else do you have to talk about?
Whatever
I
they
think
bring up.
Their questions, yeah,
Yeah.
Carl.
Hello. You guys still up?
Yeah, they were down at doing a recess for the peace officer memorial, so
Okay.
hopefully we'll be done soon. Oh, while we're here, 1, 2, 3, 4, we got enough, I mean, 5.
There's a
If
couple.
you guys asking for money, we can, I mean, we could probably prove it right here, can't we?
Do you guys know what the security to get that Wi-Fi?
I have none.
I have no idea. They might know in there.
Yeah, I was gonna go peek.
You have to go get you some breakfast.
No,
Did you eat?
I mean, egg big or Sunday, the whole pan of it. Chipping away at it.
I was gonna go fishing in Canada this weekend. Leave Friday, drive to Canada.
Is the
fish
ice off
Saturday,
yet?
Come back Sunday, huh?
Is the ice off yet?
It is. But the people I'm going with are a bunch of retired guys from St. Cloud. A couple of them are retired orthopedic guys, surgeons, and businessmen and lawyers. And then they started talking about getting COVID tests. Then I started thinking one of my players had COVID last week. And I'm still coaching, I'm still subbing. And so I had to text them or email them and say, you know, I still feel like I want to come and possibly expose my 75, 80-year-old friends to.
Yeah.
So, plus now I don't have to drive to Canada for a day.
Oh, and not only that, but what happens if you get exposed, bring it back to the team, and you're getting close to state?
Right, that's right. So,
Yeah, the rate is going up.
is that,
Yeah. It is going up.
do you see more hospitalizations or just more tests?
More
positive tests?
testing, positive test. We haven't seen, I don't think we've had too much in our hospitalization yet. Centricare has, not in the ICU type, but still in med surge, you know, so that has increased.
Find it?
No, I don't know it. And they're trying to call, I know that.
We're anticipating falls to be disaster again.
Really?
Yeah.
Because people aren't getting their next booster or their,
It just,
We kind of follow the wave.
it follows the wave like when it starts in
Eastern
China and starts coming
Asia.
through Europe.
that's what's happened.
Yeah. Last 2 years, that's kinda how it's came, and then it usually hits the coast probably right around June, July, and then in the fall, it kinda hits the mid part.
And have you found because of vaccinations that there's less serious illness? I mean, is there-
Less serious illness, you know, we've had some, I think, touch and goes, or people who been vaccinated didn't get it. But we were running a study that, of just our own employees, and there was, probably a 2-week, 3-week span there, 47% of our employees that were out were fully vaccinated and boosted. So, it just saves you from not,
And you have some employees that aren't vaccinated, correct?
right.
But they still mask and they,
Well, yeah, we have to fully mask in the hospital everywhere we go.
that's all hospitals, right?
Yeah, Department of Health hasn't allowed us to change that. I don't hear any rumbling that they're going to either.
Right. Well, that's not good news. I thought you guys were gonna tell us good news.
No, I think it's here to,
Hopefully
at-
we're wrong about this next one.
yeah.
It's interesting because we can't, before there were home tests, we could track kind of so many people are getting tested and as many are coming
Right.
positive. Now we don't see a lot of that same testing, so it's hard to say how many people are actually out there sick.
Right.
So we're just kind of watching what's happening elsewhere, but fortunately right now it's lower than it's been for quite a while.
Yeah,
It's
we
starting to
had,
pick up in Minnesota.
I think probably last month our positivity rate was less than 4%, which is really good. at its peak, we were at 29%.
And that's just the testing that, but you're not tracking the home testing. so
No.
it's-
Yeah, we don't know if people are.
But we kinda, we kinda, you know, if we're having a 14% positivity rate, we're just assuming, you know, the home tests are at the same rate. And then we'll take a run through, family fare and stuff like that, and see how many home tests are sitting on the shelves.
Well, people aren't home testing unless they're not feeling well
Right.
either, right? Or unless they're going to Canada fishing,
Yeah,
because that's what they're doing, all my friends, they gotta test 3 times before they go.
is Canada accepting the home test?
I don't know that.
Oh,
They're accepting a vaccination card.
right.
You better bring that.
Yeah, when we went, my wife and I went on vacation.
Perfect.
Updated
You got
home
it.
test.
But they,
No, we went to Jamaica, they wouldn't accept the home test, you had to have a PCR test.
were you nervous about getting sick there and having to stay?
Actually,
hope it-
I felt safer there.
What's that?
They didn't even.
I actually felt safer.
Oh my goodness
Uh,
sakes.
Every
Holy
morning, we
crap.
went up in the resort.
I was wondering if that
You had to wear
qualified for a mask for the
and
week.
You had to sanitize your hands, everything like that. They took your temperature.
I'll be honest.
Or is it just me?
No, it was me
Let me
too.
not say that out loud. but I'm like,
outside.
I was thinking it hard.
And then,
so.
you had to test right back in, and they did that.
Yeah, I did. They did.
It was, yeah. I felt-
No, they didn't hang me, you know. Yeah, exactly. No, it went well. I mean, they just asked questions and I just real candid with them and said, you know, just kinda, just look for outside counsel and we're just, you know, trying to see what kind of right of way we can
Really?
get. And I said, you know, it's gonna be up to, you know, what they decide, what we can
Yeah,
take.
we had,
and
every
trade.
time we went
It's not even
somewhere,
gonna be our
even
decision, it'll
when
be
the
probably
gift
the
shop, the
court's
resort,
decision.
sanitize,
Did they get the beer or
sanitize,
not?
sanitize, anywhere, go up to the bar, sanitize. And we're like,
Miller?
and I'm thinking,
Oh, yeah.
part of it is, I mean, that's their livelihood, is tourists, so they needed to.
Yeah, so I kept it pretty generic and said, you know, we're gonna build the road, we have to do the culvert later now because he's not playing ball and I didn't try to beat him up much at all. I just, it was just being more, no, no.
Got a little fresh air, that was good. What a
Where'd
nice
everybody go?
ceremony.
Oh, all I did is there's like 5
Yep.
people came in, we voted, we
Yep.
gave them everything they wanted.
Good, we can move right on then.
Yeah, I knew the person right in the
Short
front
meeting
wrote me
today.
a scandalous email when I didn't make it last year to one of those meetings. I'm just like, you know, that's like,
Goldberg, I paid my
I was
tax.
just like going, well, I'm here now, so I didn't mention her, but I just assumed that
I'm
was
not on
her.
that budget committee,
On
but.
that one?
But it went well, it went well, so.
No.
They clapped afterwards, so I guess that's a
Register
good
those
thing. Yeah, I
complaints
thought
right
that
on
was
this side of the
Yeah,
table.
that's like,
Is that Stephen Danny?
Stephen Danny, he just paid his property taxes and got chest pains, he said.
Checking it
oh,
I said,
Steve
that's
did?
this side of.
Oh, I did.
oh, you did, oh. Just imagine if we weren't on budget, what your chest pains would be like, huh? You'd have to go back to your own hospital and get resuscitated maybe.
Get you some inpatient revenue, that'd be good.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly. It'd help the bottom line, I guess, maybe.
That we classified Workman's comp either.
Probably not.
Ours is just.
All right, if is everyone here? I suppose we can wait for Brandy.
Brandy is coming.
You think that counts for a weekly mass for me?
Yeah.
Well, you got
I did get the host, you know, but
Nobody's paying any attention.
4 different denominations.
I know,
Okay,
exactly.
I'm gonna reconvene the county board meeting.
Okay.
And we'll continue on with the hospital report.
Yep.
Okay.
I just, I had one question, more of a note. The vets, they're looking at Litchfield for a CBOT, for a community-based, basically a vet clinic.
Okay.
Not a animal clinic, a veterans
Yep.
clinic. I say vet clinic, but is there, if that comes to fruition, is there any space available or anything? I just wanna kinda put it on your radar.
Right now, not at the hospital, depending on what the rooms, how many rooms we're looking at. If we, get the numbers down and look at a building project, then we'd have 1 or 2 clinics available.
I just kinda wanna put it out there on the hospital board and your guys' radar that they had, kinda selected Litchfield because of the number of veterans in this part of the state. We're on a short list.
What
That's
is
all.
the building project anyway? I don't know if I've ever.
Building project is looking at the 2 clinics that we have across the street. right
Yep.
now. They're getting into the end of their life of the buildings. What's happening though is we end up in a less than a block radius. We have 3 labs, 3 radiology groups. The amount of people and the providers, I would say Dr. Pula, who's one of our key OB providers, the amount of time she walks back and forth when there's an OB in, the inefficiencies is just killing us. And then there's no opportunity for growth in those areas.
So you're consolidating those
Looking
2
to
clinics
consolidate those 2
possibly?
Clinics into one. The other area that we're looking at is our rehab. If anybody has participated in our PT, OT, we have probably one of the best rehab, departments around. That's at its square footage too. We can't add another therapist in there. We don't have the square footage. So the 2 big components of that would be the rural health clinic and then rehab. With that, we gotta look at our pharmacy. That won't hit code here pretty soon with the humidity. Our lab also, and making some tweaks when we do that. So
This is a long-term down the line thing though, right? I mean, we're talking, it won't be up and running for how many years and,
if
Because
we
you
get
just
to the
bought some
budget-
stuff.
If we get to the budget that everybody wants, it's 14 months.
14 months, once the budget is approved.
we're a long, just let me say, as chairman of the hospital board, we're a long way from a budget that's gonna be approved, so
Gotcha.
don't get up in the air.
No,
Do you agree, Paul?
Yeah.
So,
gotcha.
So the hospital owns the property that the 2 clinics are on?
no,
No.
Central Carolina's.
But you were contemplating moving both of those facilities to within the hospital facility itself?
Yeah,
Within
we'd have to have a new
clinic.
construction that
That-
would be attached to the hospital. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So
one of the things, Julie, that's happening is we're set up for 24, 25 beds inpatient, and we never, nobody, inpatient is down everywhere. Outpatient is the thing, correct me if I'm wrong. So we would probably reduce the inpatient beds, I'm guessing, down to 14.
Yeah, we'd probably look at that, see how we can cross-utilize the space.
And then,
But we
Everything
also
would
got a 1950 building that roof's leaking, the pipe's leaking,
windows,
doesn't meet ADA.
it's kinda like here.
Yeah, we got a rough leak in here too, don't we?
we'll get to that.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions for Kurt or Nicole while they're here? Anybody? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Barb Block, County Auditor. Did I skip something?
Nope.
Nope.
We won't tell if you
Fire
did.
block County
Thank you.
Auditor. Just have the one item, this is a new situation where I'd like to discuss the approval of an on-sale wine license for Joma's Hill Winery. And Tom and Joyce are the owners of this particular winery, and they have submitted an application to have on-sale wine, including Sundays. This is a new license request. This location currently is licensed as a farm winery by the Department of Public Safety, Alcohol Gambling Division. So before a license can be issued, we need to have the recommendation of the attorney and sheriff, and we've received both of that for the applicants and now before the county board. Once we have this local authority, it will be forwarded to the alcohol and gambling, and subsequently, a license should be issued. This will give them a license to sell strong beer and wine products along with their farm winery that they're already licensed to sell 7 days a week. So it's adding the strong beer to their mix.
Look for a motion to approve the on-sale wine Sunday license for Tom Hill Vineyard and Winery.
Madam Chair, oh, go ahead.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Bredesen.
I'll second that.
By Commissioner Johnson. Any questions, discussion?
I'm for the motion, but,
Okay.
something, we're doing a 14 project in another year, right? Okay, that winery sits 206, or, yeah, 205th is right here. It's kind of a blind, something just to think about as you lay that
We
out.
reviewed it for site distance and potential bypass lanes, 2 weeks ago.
Okay,
I
good.
think we're not gonna make any geometric adjustments, but we're gonna make sure we're clearing, inside of that curve, brush, trees, to keep site distance open.
Yeah, good signage or something to, because that could be a, I don't know, it's really good place. It's nice out there. Like I said, I'm for the motion, but that was my only concern was that round there.
Any other questions or concerns? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Barb. Greg Schultz, Land Use Director.
Greg Schultz, Land Use Director. This morning I got a couple items. The agenda, one's a CUP for Christopher Moyer, wants an auto service repair shop out just north of Forest City. So you can see, if you're familiar with the location of where it's at. The Plans on a auto repair shop to be operational from Monday through Friday, 7 AM till 6 PM. It's estimating roughly 12 to 20 vehicles a week he's gonna be worked on. He wants to take appointments only, that's his business model, is to take it by appointments. He doesn't want people necessarily to drive in and drop them off on him. His background, he's been an auto repair tech, I believe, for the past 25 years or so up in St. Cloud, I believe is what his background is, so. Only had 2 comments on the project from a couple local, one of them was Wasp, one of our planning commission members. The other one was another neighbor stopped down the street, said they're both in favor of having that type of business out in there. It's really off the road, as you can see, way back in the property, so. The business site's is not gonna be visible from the roadway at all.
So there's no worry about a bunch of cars being parked by the road,
Yeah,
junk cars sitting there.
it does, it'd be a regular junkyard, it's a ways back on the
Okay.
property. So, and in our conditions, we do have a signage clause in there, that if he does have a sign out by the road, it's gotta meet the specifications and the setbacks, so.
He must own the parcel to the north there as well,
His dad does, I believe.
cause the driveway, the way that looks to me, the driveway crosses the parcel line.
Is there like any specifications in terms of how many vehicles you can store in terms of those type of businesses? Cause that's the only thing I'd ever think would be, as long as it's off the beaten path.
In our conditions, we have,
I
maximum.
mean, they generate 100 vehicles sitting there, you know?
We have a maximum, I think, of 6 minimum spaces for parking, 10 items waiting for repairs, what we got in the conditions,
Gotcha,
so we put that on there.
gotcha.
We don't have an ordinance that there's a maximum, we just put 10 in the conditions for items.
But it's off where no one can see.
Way off,
Gotcha.
way off the roadway. You can't even see the house or the buildings from the road, so.
Any other questions? If not, I would look for a motion to approve the CUP.
Madam Chair, I'll move that motion forward.
Motion by Commissioner Bredesen. Do I hear a second?
I'll second, Madam
Seconded
Chair.
by Commissioner Schmidt. Any other discussion or questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Carries.
Now, the next item we have is the final plat for Swan Lake Estates, the west side of Big Swan Lake. As you approved last month, your approval of the rezoning and the preliminary plat at your April 19, 2020 meeting. This is for a 2-lot plat. It's taking lot 070986000 and 070039000, reconfiguring those 2 configurations. One lot would be 6.14 acres and lot 2 will be 4.71 acres, so they both meet the minimum size requirements.
this is the final,
This is the final plat.
this is the one that's been before us. Any questions, or I'd look for a motion to do the final plat on Swan Lake Estates, second edition?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the final plat for two-lot plat of Swan Lake Estates, second edition, located in the east one half of the northwest quarter of Section 2, Township 119, Range 29, part of the government lot 4.
Motion by Commissioner Schiefelbein, do I hear a second?
I will second that motion.
Second by Commissioner Johnson, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Greg. Phil Schmalz, Public Works Director.
Thank you.
Hi, Phil.
Good morning. Yeah, Bill Schmalz, Public Works Director. Three items for you this morning. The first one is to consider our master partnership agreement with MnDOT. This is an agreement that has a 5-year term, so every 5 years we renew it. It basically governs services that we use through MnDOT. I'd say the one we most commonly utilize is their quality assurance testing. So on our projects, we'll do quality control testing in-house, and then we use MnDOT's lab to do materials testing as the quality assurance portion. There's a resolution to go along with that agreement.
Madam Chair, move to approve resolution approving the MnDOT Master Partnership Contract.
Motion by Commissioner Johnson. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Schiefelbein. Questions? Corey, would you do the roll for the resolution, please?
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Schiefelbein,
Yes.
Commissioner Bredesen,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Olberg.
Yes.
Second item for consideration is to award the software reconstruction project inside the city of Dassel. This is a project we've talked about a couple of times. This map shows where work is being done in Dassel. The turquoise color is our County State 8 Highway 4. The green is some other work that the city's doing in conjunction with this project. Here's the bids that were received, just under $3 million, 2.4% above the engineer's estimate. Quite a bit of interest in the work. Has a lot of facets to it: underground utilities, curb and gutter replacement, sidewalk replacement, and total road core and surface reconstruction. The funding, so that's a big number. The majority of it's going to be paid for by the city of Dassel and the state. The local road improvement program is a state-funded grant program, and then Meeker County has about $636,000 worth of estimated work, and that'll come out of our state aid highway account.
Okay.
I was shocked at the range, 2% to 51%. I mean, are these guys looking apples to apples here? Because that just, I couldn't believe it. Could they be bidding the same job with that much of a?
They are. I think level of interest varies a lot. You know, contractors, if they're busy, they might still be willing to throw in a number in case there's not a lot of bidders. And they have different access to different materials when it comes to aggregates or pavement materials, so that could drastically influence their costs as well.
But they're all given the same opportunity to look at everything and visit with you, and
Yep.
you know, it would have to be that way.
Yep, we have a formal bid and proposal package that we send out, and everybody looks at the same documents.
So just out of curiosity, how are they gonna reroute traffic when that?
Off the top of my head, the city's running the project. I don't know if they have a formal detour in place through town there.
Okay.
I think I heard a little something about a detour at my Darwin Township meeting. There was some talk about them.
For this project?
You know, I might be wrong, but there was some talk about where the detour would go.
I know the state is considering a detour for Trunk Highway 15
Maybe it's that
work.
one. They didn't like it
next year.
anyway, whatever it was. I wasn't paying close enough
There's
attention.
lots of them around.
I know there is.
Countryside.
I know there is.
Well, we heard the same argument when we had the culvert
Yes.
discussion in Dassel that night when they, so.
So
Madam Chair, I'd move to award SAP 0476070015 to Landwehr Construction of St. Cloud, Minnesota for estimated cost of $2,844,879.67.
that's a big number.
Yes, it is.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Julie, that's a big number.
Wow.
Bredesen, holy crap.
Bredesen, second.
That's
I
why
know.
I questioned it, boy, they're apples to apples. here.
Motion by
This-
Commissioner Schmidt, second by Commissioner Bredesen. Any more questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
One comment I would just add about detours, when we talk about local detours, the locals commonly don't use the detour, they'll find whatever route they feel like using. But trunk highway detours, those are heavily used,
Whether, we're coming into the season, aren't we, so.
yes. Final item I have for you is to consider resolution 2022-22 for approving the LRIP grant agreement for this same project. So the city of Dassel has a population of less than 5,000, that makes it a non-state aid city, meaning funds like this LRIP grant program have to flow through the county.
Madam Chair, move to approve the resolution approving of local road improvement program grant agreement.
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Motion by Commissioner Schiefelbein, second by Commissioner Schmidt. Further discussion? This is a resolution, Corey?
Commissioner Schiefelbein,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Bredesen,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Oberg.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil.
Thanks, Phil.
By the way, are we doing any more with the, Darwin, the Washington, culvert?
I just signed the plans this morning.
You're forging ahead with what you decided?
Well, I'm getting plans approved through state aid, but I'm still waiting on the DNR for their concurrent study.
Has the hate mail slowed down, or? No.
I haven't heard anything recently.
So is the DNR giving you a projected date that you will receive this information?
Yes?
Okay.
Yes.
2 weeks ago.
There you go. Thank you. McKell, Human Resources Coordinator. Good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning, Mikkel Johnson, Human Resources Coordinator. I have Tessa here from EPA, David Drum Associates as well, and we are going to go over the benchmark communities for the market analysis that was approved by the board previously. So in your packets, there should have been a memo with those communities listed as well. So we're seeking approval of the communities for the market analysis to go ahead with. So if you wanna go through your presentation for us.
All right, good morning. I'm gonna just be brief. I know you guys have a lot on your agenda, but ask as you go ahead and I go through if you have the question, don't save it till the end. But I'm just gonna present kind of a little background, kind of why we came up with the list that we presented you, then kind of discuss the scope of the project, and then like when board will have decisions and those type of things. I am Tessa Melvin. I lead this area. I have city and county experience. I worked for Dakota County. I was a city administrator in Maple Plain, and then I started this part of David Drown about 6 years ago. So have a lot of public sector experience. Kelly Jones is our data analysis guy. He will also be assisting on the project, and just our other team members. I will just say a little bit about David Drown is that he started the company 20 years ago, was a civil engineer by trade, and then decided to start on the finance side doing bond sales and TIF districting. And then about 7 years ago, our clients came to us and said, hey, we really need help in HR, and we need executive recruitment, class and comp, and organizational studies. So we grew the business because our clients asked us to, and now we house the HR technical program for our Association of Minnesota Counties. So when Mikkel or another HR person from a county calls, if they have a HR question, it's our staff that's answering those calls. So a little bit about the market analysis, because it always leads some anxiety, is we're just looking to make sure that your pay is competitive. Your grid is where you want it to be structured. We'll also look at policies and procedures to make sure that what you're doing in the future supports where the board wants to be. Developing a compensation system that's easy to understand and administer. I always say that how you pay employees is kind of based on three things. It's based on your job description, so making sure those are up to date. Employees know what they're supposed to do, what's expected of them. Internal equity, so not only just the hierarchy of the organization, but pay equity. So every 3 years, the county has to do a report for the state that says, here are the jobs we have, and here's how we pay them, and here's how many male and female are in those positions. If you don't report or fail your report, you could lose county government aid. So it's important to make sure everything is tied together. And then the last piece that I'm specifically looking at is the market analysis, and that's where do you all want to be in relation to the market? How competitive do you want to be as you're paying employees? So those are kind of the three things that kind of make up how you determine a pay grid. What this is not, because some people assume that when a consultant's coming, it's not a staffing needs, it's not an organizational restructure. I'm not designed to cut cost or eliminate positions or to create a strategy on how we can increase pay or reduce pay. I'm strictly here to look at the market, come back with the data, and let the board decide where do they want to be in relationship to the market. Project overview. I've met with the project team. We've had some discussions with the working committee also to make sure that the benchmarks in front of you are what the county supports. We'll complete the market analysis and then come back with the findings and then recalibrate your pay structure. So once we have the findings, we'll say this is where you are to the market. The next question would be, where do you want to influence the market? Are you fine where you are? There might be some outliers. Why are they outliers? Is it the industry? Is it just a job that's hard to recruit for? Is it maybe a mismatch of the grading? Those type of things, and then if we can help with any other implementation of that. We hope to have our market analysis done in the next couple of weeks with recalibration pay grade by June, so it'll be right in time for budget season. Part of this whole thing is, again, just communications, being open, honest. Why I'm here today is because employees, department heads, the personnel committee was involved in kind of figuring out who do we want to benchmark. Part of this communication is having that circle that touches all of them but keeps going between the project team, the working committee, the board, department heads, and employees.
So I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
So personnel and who else was involved in?
It was the class and comp committee.
That was it, two.
No,
So how many people?
It was the entire class and comp committee, which includes the two commissioners
Right.
here, Brandy, Paul, myself, Mikkel. We also reached out to all the department heads to get their feedback as well.
Okay, thank you.
Personnel was not involved.
Sorry, I used the wrong term. I'm
Nope,
sorry.
that's okay.
Everyone has different names.
No,
for them.
that's fine. I knew it was these two. I was
We're going with
really asking who else was involved in it.
They just got a promotion. They're on another committee.
Yeah,
That's
that's the
not a
promotion, we really look at it. The demotion.
So when we look at benchmarks, I come in at a different approach, and that's what we're going to talk about in a little bit. The benchmarks are who do you want to compare to. So I always say start with who hugs you, because they're going to steal your employees, and that's who you steal from. But then look at what do you look like. So you can look at population, tax capacity, tax rate. Service levels is a big thing, because not all even counties offer the same amount of services, or they might be smaller departments. That's a place to start. The next thing I say is to think of spotlight. Communities might be communities that are a lot bigger than you, but they're right next to you and you can't ignore it. But when we spotlight and we're just looking at the information, we're not using it to impact the overall market analysis. So we're watching the trends and we're keeping it, but it's not going to change the market average, if that makes sense. So example is the city of Casson is a small city, but they're right next to Rochester. When we did their study, they used Rochester as a spotlight, and what it told them was their entry to mid-level positions were right in line with Rochester, which is where they wanted to be. But once they got to mid-level and department heads, there's a vast difference because Rochester has departments of 60, not 2. So, but they were able to use that information when they were recruiting and just to kind of see where they were, but not to make sure it impacted their market analysis. So in your packet and up here, these are the past benchmarks. So the last time you did a study, these are the entities you used. Anything that is red strikeout was something that was recommended to remove because it probably doesn't look like Meeker County, and or for the public schools, there just aren't a lot of jobs that are similar to county jobs. So most of these are all on here, are cities or counties. Meeker Memorial Hospital is one that would not be, but those are ones that we're recommending.
I was surprised to see that the Litchfield School was, you don't consider department heads like the principal of this building and the principal of this building and their HR department and IT departments, they've got, but
That's totally up to the board. My recommendation is that they're just not similar enough. You have your admin assistant, that would probably be the base, like they could go either or. But once you get to that department head level, might be different education levels. They're serving a different purpose. You do have like building facilities, that would be one, maintenance. But principal and what Andrew does is very different. So that's my recommendation. That was a recommendation out of the working committee too. But if it's something you say, hey, this is a huge competitor in our area and we need to make sure we're paying, then we can definitely keep them in.
okay. It just struck me. I thought, oh, why would they cross out something that close?
It's not that they're not a good comparison, but there's not near as many, there's many more, options there with more similarities to choose from to get a better, keep it more in a general pool. And Tess, I'm sure she's getting to it, but she did mention too that, if once they run the numbers, if there's outlier, you just, so even ones on there could be drastically different. We'll find out, and then you can throw them numbers out or put them to the side, if you will.
I was just curious. It just struck me. I thought, oh, okay.
The big thing is because a large, of your employees would be health and human services, and those are just very different jobs. And then even public safety, and some of those are not comparable. So that would be the only reason, but we definitely can keep them in if that's something that the board wishes to do.
Is there a magic number?
There is not, and people always ask me what is there a number we should use, or who do you recommend? I don't want to recommend. I want it to come from the group because that is really who you look like, who you compete with, and who you are. I don't want to do cookie cutter to say, oh, you have to have 10, and then we're just cutting off, because what Meeker County does is going to be different than even the county next door, and it should be because the board has its own philosophy of where it needs to pay employees, how it wants to influence the market. So,
Okay.
There's also strength in keeping similar amount of communities with what we did in the past, because through negotiations, they've seen that we could use these in the past. So consistency is important there as well.
And of the ones that we removed, the counties, Faribault County, Pine, Mauer, and Houston, each of those, when we looked at them, we looked at multiple different metrics. So we looked at population, we looked at location, budget size, number of full part-time employees, and the tax capacity. And they're based on their geography, and then also those other metrics. There just wasn't enough that when we looked at it, we felt we should keep these ones in. There was enough things that we looked at and said, well, they're either really small compared to us, or their budget's really small compared to us, or it's really large. And so we pulled those ones out for those reasons.
Okay. Thank you.
and then suggested ones to include would be the city of Olivia, the city of Painesville, Sherburne County, Wilmer, Carver County, city of St. Cloud, and the city of Hutchinson. So those would be added on to that list.
If I may ask, city of Olivia and city of Painesville, You wanna include, what was, did you see that was,
When we looked at those, we've had some, I believe, folks from law enforcement leave for positions in those communities.
okay.
And like, it might not be all the jobs, but it's one that when we asked the department heads, that was one that they wanted to,
Okay.
include, so.
I was just trying to,
Yeah.
get the feel of what you were thinking when you added these and what drove you towards those, that's all.
Yeah.
There's a geographic proximity to those cities as well.
So this is like how your current pay grid, because I always like the board to kind of go back to where we're currently at and what does that mean? So on the left-hand side, it goes all the way from A11 to E91. Those are what pay equity refers to as grades, or the comp worth points that determine a position's salary range. So if you're at E91, the bottom is your min starts on step 1, the max is step 11. You generally go through the system every year on your anniversary date if you have a good performance review. You right now, you have 33 grades. The pay grade range, so between those grades, is anywhere from 2.8 to 8%. That's not atypical. So textbook would say you should have 10% between each grade. The public sector doesn't pay pretty, and it varies. So that's why those grades kind of get moved around as the last time you did your study, and kind of recalibrating some of that, that's where it ended up. You have 3% steps. So if I'm employee at Meeker County, on my anniversary date, I move from my current step to the next one. If I'm a good performer, that's 3%. And you have 11 steps. So if I start on step 1, it takes me 10 years to get to the top.
Did you encounter any counties that, when you've done this, other places, where the county can give an employee a quality step increase in between anniversary dates simply based on their performance?
So that's a great question. So some counties do merit pay, where they'll actually have, just like you guys have these steps, they call them shadow steps. They don't use them. They use them for guidance. So for budgeting, they could use it for guiding, but then it's left up to the department head and probably a committee to decide what that looks like. Dakota County, where I came from, they have that. They have a really large range between your min and your max. And it's ideally meant that everyone, if you're a performer, you get paid. If you exceed expectations, you have that ability to grow. Not a lot of counties do that. It's hard to implement because you need really good trained department heads, and it's hard to say you're going to get a larger increase than him and now work together nicely.
Yeah,
I know, you think
It's natural.
So when you're talking, not to interrupt,
No.
when you're talking about the steps, when we did this before, one of the goals was to get fewer steps.
Yep.
Because we had, I forget how many. So will the number of steps stay? We're not looking at that, we're just looking.
It definitely could change. So what we'll be able to tell you right away is we'll show you where you are to the min and the max of your average. And I know on some positions I could probably guess which ones, but you're probably not hiring at step 1, 2, or 3 because of the market, which tells me that your pay grade probably needs to, like you said, cut it off or cut off and reattach it if you're really bound to having 11 or 10 steps. Generally what we see in counties is between 8 and 10. Law enforcement is definitely moving more towards shorter ones. So making sure you have one pay grid that meets everyone's needs would be our end goal, but that is definitely something to look for when we're doing that. And we'll be able to kind of tell you, like, out of your benchmarks, this many had 10 steps, 8 steps, so you can kind of see what that looks like.
We used to have a 12-step system covered by the unions, but you would make 12 steps in 9 years.
Oh, sure.
So you figure the first 3 years, that's learning, making sure you're gonna stay, and then you start moving through the steps quicker.
Yep.
Because you have a seasoned employee at that.
Yeah. I mean, step systems were originally created because it's the idea that once I come to Meeker County, it's going to take me some time to become fully competent. Even if I'm a seasoned employee, I don't know everything about Meeker, so there's some growth in that. But you're right. I've had one client that had 20 steps and one had 36. So that's a lot. 10-8, but we'll be able to help. And the thing when we come back to the board to say, hey, this is what we found, here's where we're relationship, that's when you get to influence. Like, okay, we would like shorter, that helps our employees, it retains them. By cutting off those first two, we're able to recruit more. You know, some of those kinds of pay philosophies we'll be discussing.
So as I look at this, across the top, what you call a step, that 0001,
Yep.
is equivalent to a year of employment? That's kind of the
Yep.
benchmark there. So across the top is how many years I've worked here. And then down along the left-hand side, these other numbers, is that based on experience and education, certifications?
Yep, those numbers, the grades are determined by pay equity and Comporth, so you have a decision band method. So when you look at a job description, if this were your job description, it basically says, based on the level of decision authority that you have in the organization and the impact of your decisions on budget and those type of things, you're categorized as a B. Now we start looking at some of those like problem solving, your communications, and some of the education and experience needed for the position.
But Commissioner Bredesen, that's not unique to the individual. That's based on the position.
Exactly, and
So for example, like the B-22, there's a number of positions that fall within that, and then the individual who's hired into that position falls into that, and then based on the number of years of experience, determines the step.
Yep, that's a great point. It's the pay equity only looks at the job description, not the person. So if there's a performance issue, that's not me. But I will also say, when you do job descriptions, I always say it's if everyone wins a lottery and we hire for tomorrow, what's needed for the position? Because I have a doctorate degree that's not required as a city manager or in county, but I have it. I'm also a TIG welder and I can weld Harley-Davidson mufflers. But again, not something that is required. I just bring it to the organization. So some positions, you know, that's where they fall in, is based on their job description, and that's where Mikkel makes sure, and that's how you hire them too. But to Andrew's point, he probably has a lot of other talents that he brings that's not in the.
That side is the negotiable.
Really? When are we gonna see those?
Yes. Yeah. Harley would like to know if you can weld as.
Harleys don't have
Well,
mufflers.
no.
Yeah.
Man, we got that.
I did that over the summer. I worked for Buell, and part of it was we did little pieces for Harley Davidson.
All right, moving along.
Sorry.
Equal opportunity pickers.
So our scope is just looking at the market, so this, and then helping you recalibrate your pay grid. So to your point, all of that will be discussed once we see where you are, and then where do you want to be. And it might not be 1 year, it might be, here's what we're gonna do this year and phase it out.
Because of job descriptions and sometimes the complexity and the difference in jobs, how do you reach that internal equity? Okay, he's doing job A, he's doing job B. You know, based on the job description, they may not be reflective of each other, but yet they could be in the same pay grade.
Yep, and there's gonna be like, I think your biggest one is probably like your B-23 is probably one of your biggest grades, and you're gonna have all the way from maybe accounting techs to maybe even highway maintenance, very different jobs. But what it does is it says at the end of the day, their decision level is similar in the organization, meaning they are making decisions, but they also have levels on top of them that are checking and balancing. And that's, you have a decision band method. There's a million other methods out there. They all work the same, but the beauty of it is the market will tell you if a job is significantly misclassed because it'll be an outlier, and we'll be like, well, why is that? And it may be a misclassification of the job description.
And at that point, as a board, we look at our class and comp and say, what were you guys doing?
No, I mean, it's.
No, that was
I know,
just.
I'm already,
just
he
being
called me an
facetious.
A, so I'm at an A11. I'm a B.
So basically, with the project, for the board, we're here today to kind of figure out who do we want to look at, and then we've had the discussion of kind of what's working with the system, what's not, just so I have background. that would be the other thing in that whole piece of communication strategy, because it's going to impact employees, future, current, you know, so we wanna make sure that we're looking at that. Decision points for the board is, again, once we come back, you guys will look at and say, where do we wanna be, or the pay philosophy, where do we wanna be in relation to the market? Pay equity tells you how you have to pay fairly, but it doesn't tell you how you have to pay the market. So you could be above your competitors, equal to them, those type of things.
So you're basically, when you say market, analysis, you're gonna take a look at our job descriptions and you're gonna find that similar job description in another county.
Yep.
Here's what they're being paid there.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
I use, and some consultants will, I think the last study you did, they'll say we're only gonna use 25 jobs. And then they calibrate it based on it. We look at every single job, but we start recalibrating your pay grade based on the ones we have most data points for. So what's statistically significant?
Okay.
But if someone says, hey, I wasn't included, no, you were, we maybe only found one or two data pieces. And based on, like I said, the internal equity, all of the other things, they kind of, it all works out.
And by the way, not all employees, staff come out overjoyed on this study.
Oh,
So you know.
I will never run for public office
No.
because there's a lot of people that don't like
Well,
it.
some don't enjoy it either, so.
No, but I'm just saying, somebody is, you know, it's
Right.
what happened last time. And it-
Well, and
yeah.
a big part of it is public sector employees are very prideful of their work, and they really are passionate about what they do, and they, you know, feel like they should be paid more. My job is to come in and look at the market fairly, talk with the board, where do they wanna be in relation to the market? Cause you could come in and say, we wanna be 30% above everyone else, then everyone would be joyous, but that's fiscally not that's not gonna happen.
So theoretically, Danny will move from an A to a B.
Right, exactly.
Theoretically. Yeah, I don't think I'm qualified
But
to
the
be a.
truth is, I'm gonna guess Mikkel and Andrew probably already know where we're lagging, right? Probably.
Have a general sense.
Yeah, so there's areas that we are and areas that we're not.
Yeah, I mean, right away I could tell you, any job that you're not hiring on step one means the pay grade's not where it should
Right.
be. Law enforcement, assessing, assistant attorneys, those are really hard to recruit for positions right now in engineering. I can just tell you that even if you're okay within the market, it's something you probably want to look at, so.
I think public health was one we never started anybody, I mean, we always were at it because of the issues we had hiring as well as the candidates that we came
Yeah.
forward. So-
You mentioned that engineers, and we have a couple of engineers that we're recruiting for, correct?
One position, yeah, we'll take either or.
Yeah. So you also said that your firm does executive recruitment or that type of recruitment. Do you find a lot of candidates in your recruitment? Or is it slim pickings?
It depends on the position, but it requires a lot of, I mean, I don't do that piece of it, so.
Yeah, I
But
figured
it
that,
requires a lot of like knowing who the pool is and making those phone calls. But I mean, I'm gonna be honest, it's a very hard market right now because people work from home for a long time and they don't wanna go back in the office, or now maybe their lifestyle has changed and they want, something more flexible or something like that.
So it isn't anymore all about the money either, is it? I mean,
It's not, but
people are not leaving the workforce just because, or moving
For sure.
because of money.
But I will say, one thing I do notice in a lot of these recently is those entry-level positions, so like your A11 through like B21, those are probably gonna be low to the market. I mean, if you look at like regional market, because you can work at Walmart and for more than you could in the past. And that's creeping up and kind of pushing people to go elsewhere.
And one thing that I've noticed since I've been on class and comp is that, and that's, we talked about this, is that if you don't do a study for too long a time, then you start to, all the information starts to glob into one circle, and it's hard to dissect, so this will be able to kind of break all that out, give us new comparisons,
It really is.
identify shortfalls and
For sure, it's really
strengths.
like a maintenance program. You guys do it on your highways with your pavement improvement plan. You look at the road surface every year and make small adjustments. That's exactly what we're doing to keep your pay grid your classification system going, but we're just gonna have to make some adjustments. And that's what this is, if it's seal crack or whatever that may be.
Remind me, how long ago did we do one?
4 years ago.
Four, okay.
And the fortunate thing is, yeah, 2018.
Right before me.
And the fortunate thing is you and your predecessors have kept up on doing COLAs throughout that as well. And so we'll find areas that need tweaking through the process, but that's the purpose of the process. We shouldn't come in and say, oh my gosh, everything is 25% off of what the market is, because we did this a little while ago, we're keeping up on it, and we're just gonna keep up, so.
Okay.
And then we need to keep in mind too, what happened 2 years ago. The study was done 4 years ago. And then we had COVID hit 2 years ago, and we're still reeling from that sort of situation.
For
As
sure.
Beth mentioned, lifestyles have changed, people maybe wanna come back, maybe they don't.
Yeah, and just, retirements, that's a big thing that we're experiencing, so.
And the trouble, with class and comp, when you get that information get too consolidated, then if somebody adjusts, then there's 6 other people around them that have the same argument, if you will. So we need to identify a reset of the numbers to have good information to work with on class and comp. So.
So the last piece is that final report, and then just looking at any policies, like how do you hire people in, maybe how do you promote, anything like that that we can help with. So are there questions specifically on the benchmarks, anything I talked about?
We kinda asked them as you went.
Yeah.
No, that was the
Yeah.
whole intent.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was good. Thank you.
You know, when we look at that list, I really didn't, this is me personally talking now, of the ones that were selected, I didn't see any that I had any issues using. The ones that were strict, made sense,
We'll find out. Once you,
That's
I
true.
mean, that's
Yeah.
part of it,
but
we'll find out when we run the numbers.
Well, St. Cloud, they've got a huge budget compared to what, right?
Correct,
to
so,
ours.
But they're a
But
close
geographically, I'm assuming.
they can be a spotlight.
Yep, we could use them as a spotlight if that's.
It's an easy commute.
So what do you mean by,
Just at St. Cloud, you're at 92%. Then you could put them back in, it'll probably not make that big of a difference, cause you have a lot of benchmarks, it kinda gets diluted in there. But by pulling it out, you specifically see, but it might not ill influence it, cause if you were 80% of St. Cloud, because they have such a big budget, you might say, we can't pay like them, but we wanna see where we are,
Yeah.
because some of our people may move there,
They're
and
a
what could we do?
competitor.
Yeah.
but that doesn't necessarily, we can't compete in every area.
No, and you don't have to, but at least you can see. And like I said, you might be to St. Cloud from like your A to C41, you might be right in line. They might pay really high on their department heads because their department heads are bigger, they have bigger
Right,
budget, those type of things. Then that maybe makes sense. It might be the other way too, I don't know, but it'll at least tell you, and when it comes up in union negotiations, you have the data at your hands to say, we looked at them and
Right, good. Any other questions?
Did you have a comment?
so we're just looking for a motion, to approve the benchmark communities for the market analysis.
And do we have a price on this at this point in time, or
As far as the
Cost
study,
of-
the study's gonna cost?
the study was $17,000.
And that's-
And that was already approved.
That was, but it hasn't changed, that, I know we talked about it.
No, hasn't
Went
changed.
down.
It
Oh,
went down.
good.
And if we don't like the results, we don't have to at all.
We don't have to pay. That was that clause at the bottom. I
So,
see.
this was the price when we chose the company.
Yep.
Okay. All right, thank you.
But Beth, in the fine print on the bottom, it says, if we don't like the results, we don't have to pay at all.
I like that, Dan.
Well, I can tell you that we've never had a client that didn't implement. I will say that it might not be 1 year, but 2, where a lot of our competitors have about 30% that never implements. You pay-
He might be pulling your leg, we'll pay you.
Well, I'm just saying though, because that is a thing though, but a lot of.
Checks in the mail.
No, I understand.
But the reason I say that is because my husband used to be a county administrator and they did a study, and then when he said, well, how do we implement? They said, oh, that'll be an additional charge.
Oh,
Oh,
And we'll work our way backwards. If Andrew has a number, we'll work it so it fits your budget, and if it's year one, year two, and from an employee, that tells me that you guys are committed, that we are valued. It might not be all in 1 year where I'm gonna get it, but I do have a plan and here's what it looks like, so I think that's important.
Good. So we're looking for a motion to approve the benchmark.
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion to approve, benchmarking, communities for market analysis.
Motion by Commissioner Schmidt, do I hear a second?
Second?
Second by Commissioner Schiefelbein. Any other questions? Anyone? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries, thank you.
And if you don't like it, I'll just blame those two.
There-
Yeah.
Yeah, we already have that down pat.
Yeah. We're already spotlighted.
That's what they call it.
Yeah.
Just remember, you're on the A scale, buddy.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Mikhail.
Andrew Letson, Administrator Report.
I just have one item for you, actually, yes, one item for the administrator's report today. So, as you are all aware, last Thursday evening during the storms that passed through, Meeker County, we had an issue here at the courthouse where we had a failure on our roof, which allowed, water to enter the southwest corner of level 5 and a portion of level 4. The roof was temporarily repaired, thanks in large part to the work of Joel and his staff and their hard work and their quick action on all of it. Since then, we've been working to get everything dried out. If you've been up to level 5 at all, you've heard the hum of the fans, and we had that going on down here too. Before we can move forward with doing a full restoration and getting everything back to the way that it was, we need to have an insurance adjuster from MCIT out to evaluate the damage and determine what the level of repayment to the county would be. So that person is, Joel's working on getting them scheduled to come out here. He's been in contact with them and they're working on we've been working with the courts to coordinate their work while this work is occurring. Fortunately, the impact is on the lesser used side of that level. Although if this drags on for a while, there will be some impact, but we're coordinating with them to minimize that. So.
Did we lose any important books information?
No, we did not. So fortunately, the really important information up on level 5 is all electronic.
Good.
There was some damage to some written materials that were up there, and so those folks need to go through that and determine what was impacted. Our other major concern was as water started to seep into level 4 here was the old vital records books. So
I had a constituent call me about that, and I said, I do not believe they were.
No, we
she
had
said she saw plastic over them, so.
we did put plastic over them to protect them because we had some water that was starting to come down above them, but we were able to identify it and get them covered prior to any water actually impacting
Good.
those books.
Good.
Anything else, Andrew?
That concludes my report.
We have to wait for insurance adjusters before we can
Start the
proceed
restoration.
with repair or? what?
Correct.
Okay, that's,
Yep.
so
So we've been doing the remediation right now. So we've been working on getting everything dried out to, the roof is temporarily repaired. It's
in case we
sealed,
get
so.
another event.
Exactly. They got it sealed in the nick of time on Thursday night because there was
Oh.
another wave of rain coming through and they were able to get it done before we got hit with another.
I understood
another-
Joel worked very hard.
Oh,
Joel
my.
absolutely did.
Oh.
And his entire team was here as well, working until about 2 a.m. on Friday morning, getting things cleaned up as best as they could, vacuuming things up and getting fans set up so that things could dry out. So the drying things out to prevent the growth of mold was one of our major concerns. So we contacted a disaster recovery company to come out and work with us to help with moisture testing and verify where we still had issues. And as of yesterday morning, there was one room where we still had a fair amount of moisture, so they ended up having to cut the wall open and pull insulation out to be able to get that wet insulation out of there. So they've been very helpful, and like I said, Joel's worked very hard over the past few days to get this fixed up for us. So.
Okay, any other questions? Not, we'll proceed with our committee reports. Who would like to start?
I'll go.
Okay.
The police department, both in Eden Valley and Grove City, had their DARE graduations on the 5th and 6th. Attended both of them. it's for the fifth grade, and it's really a great program, and it's just a further testament to the things that police and law enforcement do within our communities. That's kind of not talked about and not seen very often. DARE's was implemented 39 years ago, and both the Eden Valley and the Grove City deputies that were doing the program are both stepping down and passing the torch to new deputies for the next year. So it was just a good opportunity to see how they interact with the students at both schools and the success of that program. So I thank the Sheriff's Department for all their work that they do on that. Then we met with Tessa on the 6th as well, and went through class and comp, and we discussed that pretty well in detail. Monday the 9th, I had a MRC meeting, virtual meeting. As much as I truly try to enjoy MRC, and not a fair word, but it always seems that the MRC meetings, you get going, you get heading down the road, and you think that you're really gonna do something productive, and then the taillights come on, and it stops dead in its tracks, and I haven't quite been able to figure that out, exactly why that is. But at the end, the meetings tend to be fairly unproductive, in my opinion, and I'm disappointed in that. I did talk further, had a discussion with Julie Ring at AMC, and we talked further about if AMC would look into doing a ag and rural development type committee, and she said, what came out of our conversation, she's gonna look into doing a subcommittee, which would increase staff, and she thought that would be a way that they could address some of that. 'Cause a lot of the work that MRC does, the meat and potatoes of the meeting tend to come through AMC's reports that are in the meeting, so I'm struggling with why are we engaging and doing the work twice and getting to the people who are providing a lot of the resources, so I'll keep you posted. It's just been frustrating, sitting in them MRC meetings. Also that Monday the 9th, then I met with Grove City Care. Also that Monday the 9th, and the Grove City Council for a work session. The discussion on the city, from the city, of increasing the rent to the care facility. And there's been that, and also then the legislative activity going on at the House and Senate on the nonprofits. And if you did not have a audit done within the last 2 years, a professional audit done within the last 2 years, that they would not give you any DHS funding until those 2 years are completed. So a lot of these small rural nonprofits, and I've talked to Representative Erdahl, and I talked to Senator Andrew Lang a little bit about this, and they think they got it all curtailed a little bit, like Grove City Care, the $85,000 a year budget on a small project like that. That would actually really derail their program, if not close many of them down. So they're trying to put the language in that House and Senate files moving forward to address that. So some of these smaller nonprofits, I believe the number is if it's below 300,000, I think they would be waived from that process. So they're trying to address that, but it does have them facilities up in arms, and it's a lot of these living at home network programs like Grove City Care, and Atwater has one, and there's multiple around outstate that would be affected heavily by that. And then also on the 13th, we had facilities planning meeting, and that number is hard to digest yet. The one thing I would like to see, sleeping on this a little bit, Andrew, I'd like to see the family services building with the cafeteria, if we could break that out separate from this if we could get one set of numbers for that building and just really work through them, and a separate set for this building. Every time we make an adjustment, well, we take some off here and some off there, and then I feel like we're getting a watered down version of both. Somehow in there, we're gonna have to try and,
So you're looking for a separate cost estimate for the courthouse and a separate cost estimate for family services, everything that's included in both of those?
because I don't know that we can, I don't know how we go about a $12 to $14 million project without identifying this, breaking it down a little bit more.
Are those the numbers right now we're talking then?
Unless you wanna do option A, that's 25 million. Just thought I'd throw that out there for you.
Yeah.
19 is the high, and,
Oh, never mind, 19.
but the 12 to 14, but that, I don't like some of the plans when we do that. So I don't know, I'd like to, if we're gonna do a project, I'd like to see the project done, a quality project that's long-term and usable project for years to come. And if we're gonna shave, and then in 5 years, you're looking, why didn't we do this and why didn't we do that? You always have some of that, but I think we can avoid some of that. But that's all I got. I better shut up because I gotta be in Atwater to load a truck at 11 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
Boy.
So Danny, take your time.
All right. You
Well,
forgot
he's always-
EDA
he's-
too.
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah, you can go, you got her.
Oh,
There
thanks
was
a
a
lot.
couple important things on there.
EDA during our Thursday storm. So, yeah, so we had EDA, we had a presenter from Plymouth Industries who bought a building in Ean Valley, and they're looking for tax abatement, so they did a presentation. We also had a presentation from Lisa on, what was it called?
Workforce development.
Workforce development, couple of different options of using ARP money for that. There's $150,000 that we kind of have earmarked right now for that, and we're still working on fine tuning some of those options on that one. Also had the class and comp, Tessa. I really appreciate the way her candidness was with that meeting, so I think it'll be a good fit, hopefully, for us. I think she looks on both sides of the equation, the county side as far as costs and employee side as far as retention. Let's see here, what else did I have? Oh, I went to the Big Swan Lake annual meeting to talk about the weir, so they didn't throw me out, so that was good anyway.
Where are
so.
they at with that?
We're waiting. We're still waiting on, we're gonna build the road. No, it's not a DNR thing. It's a landowner about getting
Yeah,
the right of
that's
way
right.
for the culvert. So we don't even have the right of way for the culvert yet.
So does that all have to be resurveyed for him, or what is it he wants?
We're
Do
still,
we know?
It's currently, being reviewed by my office and
Okay.
working with outside counsel, and
'Cause
so
I talked
we're,
to Commissioner Hausman a little bit about it, and he's like, this, I'm not, well,
we're more advanced than where we were when he was
Okay.
sitting on the
okay,
board.
good.
well said.
And Phil is definitely working on trying to address it and move forward, and
The unfortunate thing is we have to build the road first and then come back and put the culvert in, which is the exact opposite of what you wanna do.
And you have to do that.
Yeah, because we don't have the rights to the right of way. I mean,
Gotta
we
fix the
have it.
road.
That must be.
Gotta fix the road. You can't let
neighbors
that
up there.
continue.
Yeah, so that was, it was
we're
real,
working through it.
Thank you, Brandy.
it was peachy.
Peachy.
Yeah, so then I met with John Condon over a few ditches, and I think we're going to get rid of, abandon one. We're giving the Clearwater River, we're proposing to give that to the Clearwater River watershed. And then he's gonna have a, public meeting sometime, I think on JD 3, about a possible cleanup. And I think my last, meeting is the Woodland Centers, which is always a highlight for me. So I plan on staying on that committee if anybody's interested to know that for the long run. We talked about the board of governances of what the board members have in terms of power, in terms of Woodland Centers, whether it's, I don't know, what were the two terms we're talking about? Whether it was, advisory versus governance? Is that what the two terms?
Well, that's.
can't remember.
I don't know if we talked about that, but I
Well-
think they're a board of governance, and we looked back at some older policies that we're gonna be going over, that need to be going over anyway.
Yep.
And then we're gonna have some meetings about what our job as a board is, which I had discussed with Ashley a couple months ago, even before all of this. So we're gonna, I think exec and finance is gonna start discussing some of those things and bring them forward
Yep.
to the full board.
And one of those things is, the formality of usually, I think in the past, you had to be elected to be a part of the board of governors, or whatever you wanna call it, versus just appointed by the county. So that's one of the things that the executive
And I think
committee.
that is a formality, like, for instance, not that this is a great comparison, but our shelter board, for instance, we bring our members that are gonna join the board to the annual meeting, and they're voted on, and that is how it used to be at Woodland. I think even when I went on 10 years ago, I believe at an annual meeting, it was voted on. The selection is still through the board of commissioners, whoever, but it was always voted on. So that was a discussion, because I think we were looking back at policy. If that makes sense.
So, and let's see, I think that's about it. That's all I got.
Paul?
Well, Prime West, that was an interesting meeting. Our enrollment there is up to 51,375.
What is it?
51,375.
And that's because they haven't re-enrolled yet, right?
Yes, yeah. So, the net gain year-to-date right now is $7 million. So, we do have a date for the summary judgment hearing, which will be June 23rd. So, perhaps we'll prevail there. If not, it will continue on.
Thank you for going to that meeting for me. I couldn't attend. Did they say, what they're thinking, or
Well, yeah, they were awfully careful.
were they?
I imagine, Brandy, they have to be very careful about what is said because they're in this litigation. So, everything was pretty generic when we talked about it. You know, they announced the date of the summary judgment. However, you know, it could just, they did refuse mediation. The state DHS refused to go to mediation on it. So, they did announce that.
Commissioner Johnson, have they engaged in counsel to represent them through this? Who is it that they have?
I don't remember their name, but
God, they
we've
had 'em
had
on, too.
counsel for 3-4 months,
Okay.
longer than that. Paul, what is it?
It was this, I don't know the name, but
Yeah.
it was the same council.
We
that
used
they
last time.
Previously, class action suit with South Country Health Alliance and
Right.
a number of other counties.
They have a lot of experience in it.
Excellent.
It's been meetings.
Good to hear.
David Asp is the name,
Is that the?
from Lockridge, Grindal, and Nowen.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So, he gave us the update, but once again, like I said, Jim Prisbilla basically throughout the meeting said very little. He stayed very neutral, and the lawyer was very careful also in what he was saying, because we were not in a closed meeting.
Right.
So, this was something interesting. All of the staff has not moved back to Prime West. Currently, they have 91 working from home. 57 are hybrids that come in for a day or two each week. And they have 15 full-time in the office, and that's just to conduct business. They have to. So one of the questions that has come up is, if you're working from home, how does workman's comp cover you? That seems to be a real interesting question that nobody has an answer to. So you're working from home and you go to the mailbox and you fall on the way to the mailbox. Are you covered? Can you file a claim?
Are
So
you?
trip and fall at work.
If you're within the duties of your job, then yes.
Well, but that really becomes kind of Okay, you were mailing a letter. Where was the letter going to? You were retrieving mail. Do you get mail from?
Yeah, I think
It is a difficult question, and I think that one's gonna be answered through claims and how those claims are responded to, but, yeah, that came up, we had a good discussion on that, so. And then Steve referenced the DARE program, and I was at, the Atwater Grove City one. It was really nice, to see so many parents participating, to come to watch their kids, as they graduated the DARE program. And, they had a magician there, the kids, but this magician was very good because he would do his act, but he would draw to things that they learned in the DARE program. So it was really, really good how they did it. I'm glad I went. I did have another appointment, so I had to leave early and wished I could have stayed for the rest of the magician show because it was interesting. So, we had a CCT building committee, meeting on Monday, the 9th. That 20 bus garage that they wish to put up in Wilmer and is needed, we have ruled out the recycling center because the bid to refurbish the recycling center and make it usable came in at almost the same amount of money as it was for a brand-new building, which was $7 million. However, once again, as we have discussed right here, the architect had and this is just an example, he had 8 feet between each one of the bus doors. Why do you need 8 feet? So that begins that debate. Okay, you start shrinking all of this. 2 wash bays. Well, that's fine, but think about the wash bay. If we eliminate the wash bay and have each bus parked in a stall, wash it on the spot, you don't have a driver sitting outside waiting for somebody else to get out of the wash bay so they can wash theirs, sitting there on the clock. So, on Wednesday I had packed in Glencoe, so we got to visit the Trailblazer Transit building that was built a few years ago. And it is the model of efficiency. I mean, when you look at that, he called it a prefab metal building. And what it is it's insulation sandwiched with the metal. And then, of course, they have the construction. We're gonna try and get everybody to see it. And all buses are backed out, so nobody drives out. And there's a door every other, and what that does is, if that driver behind you is not there, they all leave at the same time, but let's say they're late. Now, are you trapped? No. There's enough room, you can snake out the one next to you. So, a lot of innovative things in there. It is heated entirely by Resnor heaters on the ceiling. And no in-floor heat. Each spot where they park the bus has got its own wash station. So when the guys come in, they wash the bus off right there, and they're done.
How old is the building, Paul?
That was built in 2000, I want to say 18, but don't quote me on that.
So they don't have a lot of frills, they just put up an efficient building.
But you don't need frills.
No, I agree.
Yeah, and at that time, they put it up for 2.5.
Right.
And he was not allowed to go 1 penny over 2.5 million. He was $30 or $300 under budget at the end. That's how close they got, but they got it done.
What's the definition of a wash station? Just a drain and then a hose right there?
You have a hose at the end of each stall, so you just grab your hose and go. You don't have to wait for anybody, you don't have to do anything. The brushes were there. The drivers actually pull in, and when they pull in and park, they turn the wheels so that they can do tire inspection and suspension inspection because it's a part of their daily inspections. And every driver there, when we walk down through there, all the buses in there, properly parked and turned, ready for their inspection for the next day. It was very impressive, very impressive. But the heat, you're heating 20 bus bays, coming in at 30 below after being outside, and you're heating them with Resnor heaters. And he said it's so efficient, just so cheap. And they built it on 2.5 acres of land, not the 7 that we've been told we need by the architects.
This will be a good discussion then.
It was
How
great.
many buses are we intending to house?
There will be 20 in Wilmer.
And
Well, I shouldn't say that,
This
no.
one was a 20 bus
This was
garage.
a 20. Yeah, we will have 2 mechanic bays. They don't do any of their own mechanical. Everything is farmed out.
Well, that's what we used to do a lot of, so that might be
Yeah.
another option to look at.
And then on that same Wednesday, I had PACT in Glencoe. Just a couple of quick things from there. PAC and Woodland Center are partnering to bring the issues forward, collaborating with schools to find the needs in mental health. They are having some more sensory movies, and that's where they have them to a movie theater. The lights don't go down, the volume isn't as loud, people can move around. It's just a more family-friendly environment than going to a dark movie theater. One on the 21st of May, one on June 4th. June 18th, they're having a meet and greet with the Stinger baseball team. I guess that was a huge success a year ago. If you're interested in mental health involving children, 2 Sundays ago on 60 Minutes, there was just a little 12-minute segment that talked about some of the issues. Did you happen to see it, Paul? That 60-minute episode?
No, I didn't.
Okay, but it's only 12 minutes long and it's a good watch. It's not gonna take up much of your time. You can pull it up on the internet and watch good. But it is certainly worth your time. Yesterday, IT meeting. That's a lot of information. A lot of information. They talked about the new backup beam. We need to upgrade our firewall, and they found issues, holes in it when they were working with the state program. They are under pressure to install a 2-factor or multi-factor identification. So when you log in, like we do so many other times, you log in and then you get a text message with a code and you put it in. You know, that type of thing, but a multi-factor. So currently 2 types. We have a hard fob and a soft fob, correct? Now, that wouldn't apply to commissioners though, would it?
If you're getting on the network, it would.
So would that mean our email would require it? Okay. Hard fob, you carry it with you and it gives you a code when you try and log in. Oh, there it is. Okay.
So right now, we have 2-factor authentication for access to the network for anyone who has access to criminal justice data. There's, in order to provide a higher level of security for the network as a whole, there's discussion about expanding beyond that. However, we're looking at different ways to be able to manage that. So
Now,
it's not in the immediate future.
and I wasn't clear on this, but sending a text to the phone is only if you have a county phone. They can't do it.
That's what we're working through, is exactly how that works.
Okay. Because,
The implementation of it's still being worked out.
yeah, it's a ways out, but, you know, that will be some of the options that we'll have. 15% are failing the phishing test. So,
Not me.
and the know
just
before
delete
training, it's my understanding.
fishing.
It's my understanding that as commissioners, we're not doing well on the know before training.
I
Those of you who have not completed it,
did
know
well.
it.
I'm proud of you.
I just got a new one, now we have to do another one.
It's an easy,
Yes, it's a monthly basis. There's a training on a monthly basis.
it's an easy one though. I already did it.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah.
I knew it before I got the email about the know before.
And then there was some talk about the ISC and the RT Vision. I don't think they're ready to make a decision on that based on that discussion.
It's the automated payables. How do we get away from using paper for all of our invoices? So yeah, we're looking at a couple of different options there.
Yeah. And we talked about Caseworks, which is Paul's department there. And we did miss out on the first go-around for the multi-county purchase and discounts. However, there is going to be another one, we were told. So that one we'll still be able to jump in on that the way it sounds. Printers and copiers, we've discussed that before, but looking at a pay-by-page versus buying the equipment. And I found, just this is just a personal note, but I have Instant Ink from HP. You know, it's funny. When I used to buy my cartridges, they would last about a month. I went on HP Instant Ink, and they send me a cartridge about once every 6 months.
Yeah, me too.
It's like,
I
they
know how
last
that
a
works.
lot longer,
They do.
so,
I'm on that too. It's amazing.
and it's not that bad. From personal, about $5 a month for the 100 page. You can print 100 pages, and they send you the ink and stuff, so it's I found it, yeah, it's sure, it's, 5 times 12, but still, I think it's cheaper than when I would go and buy one cartridge. And a month later, go buy another one.
Yep.
So, but that's it for me, I spoken enough.
You were busy. Julie?
You want me to go next?
Sure.
All right. Yes, 2 weeks ago, we had our regular commissioner meeting, and then following that, we had a personnel meeting, Andrew and Paul and I. And our local public health is offering 2 clinics this month. They had one on Tuesday the 10th from 9 to noon. They still would like you to have an appointment.
Is that for boosters?
Yes, that would be now for the, well, I believe you could get any of the shot options.
Are they having very many people show up?
I called and they were full with the appointment, so that was a good sign. And most are getting the second booster. Okay, and then we have today the 17th, regular meeting. We all enjoyed the Law Enforcement Center presentation. That was nicely done. We had a personnel meeting this morning, Paul and Andrew and I. Tomorrow now, I have the local public health. And it'll be interesting to see, since Dr. Searle has retired and he was the chair for our local public health, he was going to look to see if he could find his own replacement. I just received the agenda. I don't know if that will be addressed tomorrow or not. Plus, we were looking for 2 more individuals to serve on that public health, and I contacted a few folks. They were in the process of filling out the applications, and after tomorrow, I'm hoping that those positions will be filled as well. Coming up a week from today will be another public health clinic, Tuesday the 24th from noon to 3, so it'll be an afternoon block of hours. If you'd like to sign up for that, you need to contact and make your appointment. When do we have the next AIS meeting, Paul?
We haven't scheduled it.
You all received a little pamphlet here, and there is an article about the prevention and the spreading of the AIS, aquatic invasive species. Paul and I serve on that committee as well. So there's an article in there for you to read. And I don't believe I have anything else of importance to bring up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I played hooky for a week, had a wonderful vacation. I loved it. Gallenberg, I recommend it for anybody. Was a great time. So I missed some meetings. I was at Woodland with Danny. We also have hired some therapists, teletherapists from Invitel. I think one has started. And I'm not gonna quote how many, cause I didn't write it down, but they're gonna be able to start comp evals right away, which is time consuming, and hopefully take care of part of the backlog that's been going on. We had some instruction in CCBHC, reimbursements, and how that works, accounting principles of that. That was interesting, a little over my head maybe, but not everybody yet is paying the amount. I think Blue Cross now is paying the rate for CCBHC, which has increased our income, which is gonna be good overall. We got some encounter data. We were awarded $7,500 from Wilmer Area Community Foundation for the Connection Mental Wellbeing. They're doing some art events and different things for mental health, and then I think they plan on doing some things in Litchfield and Meeker County. And we did discuss the board bylaws as we were talking, Danny and I were talking about, and we're gonna have a committee looking at that. They haven't been looked at for quite a while, so that was all good. I also had a facility meeting with Steve. We are talking about option B. I think as hard as this is to swallow, this is not gonna get any cheaper. When I sat through it, I just made up my mind, it's not gonna get any cheaper. We dropped the ball 5 years ago or whenever it was, and no, here we are. And my wish is that if we're gonna do this, and we're gonna have a work session when?
Next week.
Next week. I think we just have to bite the bullet as a group and make a decision and move forward. I'm not looking at phasing, I just don't think that's the way to go. But I agree with Steve that we need to have something that 20 years from now, the next board, or 15 or 10 are gonna be out of space. That's the important thing. Do you agree, Andrew? I think the.
To
part of the
segue off
discussion-
that, what is next week's meeting gonna be about?
The work session, we're gonna look at, based on the feedback from last month,
Money
an
and-
updated iteration of the concept
How we
and
can
talk about the
finance.
financing piece of it. So based on
Are we gonna
those
talk about
questions-
any other options in terms of how to implement what we wanna try to do? Whether we try to, segment maybe certain areas that would be more architect friendly versus maybe a direct contractor versus like more simple renovations and stuff like that. I mean, cause when I'm looking at it, I'm seeing like a couple different not phases, but I'm looking at two different ways. I'm thinking like the elevator and dispatch and cafeteria is more a little specific to like an architect type style versus family services, attorneys, your admin, stuff like that could be more contracted oriented where you could just do more of a basic remodel like we've done in the past for remodels like the law library, those 2 interview rooms in at Paul's. I think that could be a way that you could actually cheapen up the budget quite a bit and make it a lot more friendly.
The first step though, is we have to make a decision, you all need to make a decision
Yep.
as a group of what do you want the project to look like? What is the concept? And once we have the concept and we start to dig into these are the details in these different areas, we can look at, is there a strategy to do this in a different way? Ultimately though, even if we say, okay, we're gonna segment this area off and do this, outside of a larger contract, or we're gonna do certain little pieces in-house with our existing staff, we still need to know how it all fits together. And so I think there is still value in having it designed by the architect, because what we don't want to do is say, well, we think this isn't going to impact anything, so we're going to put a wall up, and then we have airflow issues, or we have lighting issues, or we have things that were not foreseen because it wasn't being looked at as part of the larger project. So I think that there's absolutely opportunity to value engineer this and come up with ways to build it in a more cost-effective manner. And as we've talked about, one of the decisions that we're gonna make is, do we wanna use a construction manager on this project? And that firm will help us through that and help us identify, is this the most effective way of doing this or efficient way of doing it? But I think we're not quite to that point yet. We're still at the point of we need to decide, high level, is this what we want it to look like? And once we make that decision, we can start getting into those details of how exactly do we make
So
it happen.
Tuesday at our work session, we'll be addressing.
Yeah.
Will the architects be here again on?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're gonna be here in person?
Mhm.
Okay, good. Any
Well,
more questions
We
on that?
basically though can speak about anything at that meeting. We're not making a decision because it'll be about the buildings. It's on our work session agenda, so we can certainly discuss other ideas without an issue, right?
Well, I agree with you, but I think at some point in time, we need to decide and move ahead here with an option and then take that and go. Then we start, making decisions on what we're gonna do with that option.
Right, I just
Does
hate
that make
to, I mean,
sense? And I understand what you're saying.
yeah, I don't
Exactly.
like the 12 to 14
No,
thing,
nobody does.
and I
We
think
like
it
the
seems.
19 million less.
Yeah, no, I know,
Oh.
that's a good trick, everybody uses one number and
I
makes
know,
every,
I
12 to 4, like
So maybe
14
we decide now's
palatable.
not the time to, I don't know, but we can't just keep kicking the can down the road.
That is absolutely an option. An option is we don't do anything.
Right.
And by saying we don't do anything, what it does is it provides us with an opportunity to start sitting back and saying, well, how do we make the existing space that we have work? And
Right.
we can catch up on some of that deferred maintenance, and we can do some of those. It's an option that's out there.
I mean, obviously, we have struggles with our roof right now, right? We found that out.
Definitely.
Social service has the same kind of maintenance struggles. The hospital is having the same kind of maintenance struggles. So we're at a place where we have to decide how far we're gonna go. But I think we have to decide something for the sake of all of us and the staff and everybody, so. Any other questions about that? Okay, I also had a daycare task force meeting. We went over, the guidelines for the EDA grants, and I think, I didn't realize, has IRD put some contributions
Yep.
into this too? So we thank them for that. I guess I wasn't aware of that till the last meeting. There's gonna be a federal grant coming for, right, 20 grand or something, or is that?
Yeah,
a-
through First Children's
First
Finance.
Children's Finance, and they're waiting for the guidelines, but they're encouraging everybody to start putting in requests, even though they don't know what the guidelines are. We're having a daycare appreciation picnic on June 29th for the daycare providers. That's gonna be at
West Ripley Park.
West Ripley Park. And as usual, we continued to discuss creative ways to get some childcare slots. One of the providers that was there said, we have slots, we just do not have staff. We have slots available, we just do not have staff.
Yep.
So can this grant, and nobody's applying. I mean, it's an issue, you know, Judy from the Chambers said she will get people to call and say, I need daycare, and I've been everywhere, what do I do? And there's nowhere to go with it. Well, Brandy knows. So we just need to do something to encourage somebody to help them get one open, whether it be in-house or a center. And it's frustrating, isn't it, Andrew, to try to
Absolutely.
find the right answer. So-
Absolutely.
And that was what I had. I did a lot of thinking on my vacation. As you know, I've resigned or retired from the American Legion, after 34 years, 35, whatever. It's been great. So, I'm in the, process of training my replacement. So I don't think it's gonna be June 1, but we're moving, we're moving along. And in that, I have made a decision to, file for reelection. So I'm gonna have more time on my hands, and so today when I'm done, I'm gonna go down and file for reelection. So I hope you'll all wish me luck. So that's my report.
Absolutely. Were you in Kentucky on vacation?
I was.
Did you go to the Derby?
No,
Did
no.
you wear a hat? Mid-juleps? Any mid-juleps
No
while you were there?
mid-juleps, but we had a lot of fun.
Oh,
So,
wonderful.
yeah,
So,
it was
you
great.
know, there's a filing fee.
I know, do you have any money? Tell me
You
some.
should have bet on that horse in
Yeah,
the
I
Kentucky
should've.
Derby.
Wasn't
Yeah.
that something?
1 to 80 odds.
80 to 1,
She spent the money on the hats.
See?
yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to go there
Oh,
sometime.
that would be fun.
I mean, not to, we are done, aren't we?
Oh.
Yeah,
Adjourned?
said we, I would look for a motion to adjourn if
So move.
nobody. Moved by
Second.
Schicklbein, second. All right, we're adjourned.